Here we are. We've arrived. It is the biggest week in the history of Wake Up the Echoes, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone. Can't imagine more on the line this week around Notre Dame as the Irish get a chance to go for their 12th ever national championship in football. If you've been following it all this season, what an incredible run Coach Freeman and his team are on right now. Sugar Bowl champs, Orange Bowl champs, all that has happened since our last show. Of course, they won the home game at Notre Dame Stadium against Indiana before the Christmas holiday. It's just been an unbelievable run that this team is on. They've just, I think, exceeded all expectations and now are headed to the national championship to play a very good Ohio State team. That game, of course, is on Monday night. So our next episode will come after the national championship game. I can only hope that we're going to be talking to you after Notre Dame has won the national championship. All that said, though, just a phenomenal year. We brought in Pete Bevacqua to kind of talk about what this playoff run has meant to him. Obviously, he's the athletic director and a former student here. He had a great perspective on just where this Notre Dame team has come from the start of the year until where they are now and getting set for the biggest game, certainly in at least 12 years, when they played in the national championship last in 2012. So great conversation with Pete. And then after Pete's done, we're going to try to set you up and set the stage for what should be just an awesome night in Atlanta against Ohio State. So without further ado, let's talk to Athletics Director Pete Bevacqua. Okay, welcome back, Pete Bevacqua. I have to imagine you're one of the most excited people on campus right now. This is actually our Spinning the Wheels segment presented by TireRack.com. I imagine you've actually been spinning your wheels as much as anybody right now. It's been such an amazing run over this last month for football. In fact, the last time we talked, Notre Dame was getting ready for that home playoff game against Indiana. Just tell me what the last month has been like from your perspective.
Yeah, it's been amazing, to say the least. It's also, I'd never thought of it that way. It has been a month. That's a while to think that it's been that long. But you think back to that game here against Indiana, to be able to host the first playoff game at Notre Dame, and really the first playoff game, in this new system at a college campus. It was perfect, whether it was the snow overnight that had the campus looking so beautiful, and just the level of intensity to have our students there.
Mm-hmm.
The whole student section just packed. The spirit in Notre Dame Stadium, that whole game against Indiana could not have gone any better. I think it was a total home run for the athletic department, for the football program, and for the university, and quite frankly, for South Bend.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to have another home game and a playoff game, the economic impact of that for this community, whether it's the restaurants, the hotels, just wonderful for the whole community. And then, of course, the Sugar Bowl in Louisiana, in New Orleans. Thinking back, just the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, what we went through. Waking up that morning of when the game was supposed to be played. I remember getting up early that morning because I was going to go for a run, and probably got up around 5:30, and I've always, like I'm sure you do, checked my phone first thing, and I saw all these notices about a domestic terrorist incident. And I thought to myself, oh boy, I wonder where that happened. How awful. Started opening them up and realized it was a couple of blocks away from our hotel.
Yeah.
And knew immediately that day was going to be very, very different from how we thought it was going to be. And, so impressed thinking back on it, the way Notre Dame, the way the University of Georgia, the New Orleans community, the whether it was the governor's office, the mayor's office, the police, just everybody came together and just dealt with the situation at hand, which was so sad and so tragic. And obviously at that moment, football was very much an afterthought, making sure that our travel party was safe, that our alumni base was safe, our band, our cheer squad. Probably had 15, 20 conversations with my counterpart at Georgia, Josh Brooks. And, once everybody felt relatively secure and that the local law enforcement and FBI had everything under control, then we started talking about football.
Yeah.
And hats off to Coach Freeman. He realized what was so important about that day, the safety of everybody in the community and dealing with the tragedy and the deaths that had happened to the people in the community. just kept his calm, kept his cool. I'm sure that's no surprise to you. You've gotten to know him well. And then we started talking about the football decisions that had to be made. And once we knew the game was going to be postponed, which I think was absolutely the right decision in light of everything, it then turned into, okay, when would we play the game? And we and Georgia made it known that we wanted to play the game as early as possible, assuming everything was safe and secure. And the officials and experts felt that it definitely was. And our own security team, led by George Jeter, just unbelievable to have their expertise and his leadership. He helped us enormously. But we were thinking, as was Georgia, like, hey, whoever wins this game, you had to get back home and get ready to go play in the Orange Bowl. So we were really fortunate that we were able to play that game at 3:00. Obviously such an unbelievably exciting game in so many ways. Georgia really probably being the top program in the country the last handful of years under Coach Kirby Smart. To be able to win that game, to be able to win it the way we did, and to start to prepare for the Orange Bowl, then you feel like you're back on Notre Dame for a half a second and you're getting on a plane
Quick
again,
turnaround.
and off you go to Miami.
It was, you just brought me back to New Orleans, and it was, thinking back, being there, it was a really weird 24 hours as I think everybody experienced it. And like you said, there's so much that came before football, but what really did stick out to me from the football side was how Coach Freeman had his team ready to go amidst all those circumstances, which is obviously a big challenge that both he and Kirby Smart had.
Yeah.
And to me, that win against Georgia, I'd be interested to hear your input as obviously the athletic director, but a longtime fan and alum. That was a win that just felt like, obviously, they were so impressive in so many ways. There was a huge exhale, I thought, from fans. It was like, wow, we went into, a really difficult place to play down south against the big, bad Georgia Bulldogs, who have won 2 of the last 3 national titles, and they won by 2 scores. I mean, it was just so impressive to me watching it, to see the way they executed. And his coaching, to me, is what stands out. Like the fake punt, to me, Coach Freeman's coaching at a level that is unmatched right now. And that game, to me, of all 3, is the one that's impressed me the most.
Yeah, and I really like to say the fake punt, right?
Yes,
It wasn't even a fake punt. It was double fake punt. But it was amazing. I mean, again, in that situation, the discipline that the team showed, I think back to that day, the day of postponement, a few things stand out. One, that Coach Freeman made the decision to make sure that the players had time with their families that night. I believe it was from 6 to 9 that night. We had a team meeting that I actually opened up and talked about all of the logistics and the postponement. And then Coach Freeman asked Father Nate Wills to come up, our team chaplain, and he just gave a great talk to the team about how, hey, it's okay to both mourn the tragedy and feel the thoughts they were all feeling for what they were experiencing in New Orleans, and this horrible moment in time, this horrible incident, but also to be excited about what you have ahead of you the next day. And you shouldn't have guilt in that. That's part of the human condition, dealing with tragedy in one moment, and then also realizing, okay, and now you have a very important moment in your life. Yeah. In terms of being able to play in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. And his words were so terrific. And I do agree with you, Tony. I do think it was that moment, like, hey, Notre Dame is back to where we need to be. And, we had so many of those moments this year. You go all the way back, feels like it was 100 years ago, but to the Texas A&M game and opening the season in that environment, all eyes were on us. One of the great places to play a college football game. I think about going to Atlanta and playing Georgia Tech at Mercedes-Benz. It's nice we're going to be able to return there for the second time this season. The game at Yankee Stadium against Army, the game at MetLife against Navy, going out to Southern Cal and playing a really talented USC team, and knowing, that we had to win that game to get into the playoffs and to host a playoff game. I've said it. Marcus has said it, others have said it, but you after that NIU loss, we feel like we've been in the playoffs ever since then. Yeah, it's been a long playoff run, not just 3 games, right?
Not just 12-team playoff. It's been a 12-week playoff for Notre Dame. Just to go back to your point about Father Nate, when I was talking to Ryan Harris, who I do the broadcast with, he said kind of what Father Nate said. You have to forgive yourself when you take the field. And I just thought that was interesting. Guys that have played understood that mindset, that two things you can mourn, and then you have to forgive yourself for going out and trying to accomplish the biggest moment in your life. I want to talk a little bit about the Orange Bowl now. We're sitting here just a couple days after that win. To me, the most, at least improbable win they've had this year. It was the first time they trailed by more than 7 points, which is a testament to how well they've played throughout the year. And whatever they did at halftime, and there's some great footage out there of what Coach Freeman was saying at halftime, the way they came out, I thought Steve Angeli was remarkable in that drive to get the 3 points before halftime, and then Riley Leonard coming back in. That's maybe the best drive of the year to tie the game. Just, to me, that encapsulated this team's kind of never give up mentality this year, and it was just so fun to watch. I'm curious what your
I agree. I mean, after the game, we were still down on the field. The first comment I made to Marcus was about Steve Angeli. And I said, how about that he was able to come in there down 10-0, seize that moment, and really start to change the momentum of the game. I think that drive, the passes that he completed, the fact that we recovered the turnover, Mitch Jeter, who's had such a wonderful stretch coming down toward the end of the season, making that field goal and going into the locker room as just a one-score game. And Marcus said it to the team. He's like, hey, we're going to get the ball. We're going to go down and we're going to score a touchdown. And, of course, our first play is a motion penalty. And, oh, my God, now it's 1st and 15 and we're on the 20. But we drove right down and scored, and boom, it's tied. It's a new game. We had the momentum. And you knew it was going to be a back-and-forth game. I mean, Penn State is super talented. Some of the best players on that team that we encountered all year, without a doubt. Obviously well coached. You don't get to that stage in the season with that type of record without having a great team and an unbelievably well coached team. But, I also said to Marcus, I never once thought or felt like we were going to lose that game. And that's just the faith, I think, that I have in this team, that the team has in each other. There's such great leadership on that team, starting, of course, with Coach Freeman.
Yeah.
But you think about Jack Kaiser and Xavier Watts and Riley Leonard and, Ben Morrison, who unfortunately is hurt, but is such a presence on that sideline. And I think the team was so pumped up that Riley Mills was there. He wasn't able to come to the Sugar Bowl because he couldn't travel.
Right.
But he was able to come to this, and he was such an inspiration. And then the youth movement we have on this team, you think about the catch Aeneas Williams made. You talk about the interception, obviously, that Christian Gray had. But just play after play after play. Jeremiah Love's unbelievable touchdown. You could go on and on and on for people that just stepped up. James Rendell, how he punted the ball. Mitch Jeter, not just the field goals, but taking kickoff returns out of their equation by kicking it deep into the end zone time and time again. It was just a really wonderful team victory, and this is such a great team. I mean, there are some stars, some superstars on that team, but this is really just an unbelievable team.
Yeah, just hearing you list it off, and I was writing down some of the names, I just love how many different guys had their moment in that game and in the Sugar Bowl, like R.J. Oben with the big sack, Junior Tuihalamaka picks it up. We could probably go 30 to 35 guys deep in the postseason who've had an impact
Schuler
play.
Putting his helmet on the ball in the Sugar Bowl and causing that fumble, right?
It's everybody.
It's everybody.
It's so fun to watch right now. I have a question for you. It's our Yeti Cooler Conversation of the Week question. Were you on the field for the game-winning field goal?
Unfortunately, of course, it was not on the field, but off the field.
Okay, so
on the sidelines.
Yeah. Okay,
if I had been on the field, it would have been
12 men.
It would have been an issue. But I always
You
it's interesting because I had a good high school friend, who was in the stands, who I didn't know was going to be at the game, and like in the first quarter, he said, "Hey, I'm behind you," and I saw him. Unbeknownst to me, until literally last night, he has a video of me through that whole field goal.
Really?
And I didn't realize
we need the footage
how crazy I was acting. But I was pacing up and down, walked to the far end of the end zone, and then realized that I turned my back to it. And then once the Notre Dame crowd erupted, I turned around. I think I actually fell to my knees, Tony. And then I saw Father Bob and John Viemeyer and Jack Brennan. Father Bob, everybody knows who Father Bob is. John Viemeyer is our current chair of the trustees, and Jack Brennan was right before him. Shannon Cullinan. Shannon Cullinan, our executive vice president and classmate of mine from '93, came up, and just this joy.
Are they picking you off the turf? What is this?
They pick me up off the turf, thankfully, because I have a bad back, but just joy in everybody's eyes. And then obviously, to see Ron Powless there and the team, and it was just such a great moment. And I felt he was going to make it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't watch.
So we had an interesting angle. We're not from right behind. And watching the replay.
It was a little right to left.
I was going to say, he's playing that 3-wood draw.
It was a baby draw, right? Yeah.
Starting it out a little further right than you'd like over the water, and then it comes back.
I didn't realize that until I've now watched it probably 100 times. But it hooked in there.
There's a point in time where it's good I'm not watching it from behind, because I'm just waiting to see if they put the hands up or not. I would have thought, oh my God.
It was a nice Tiger Woods 7-iron, right?
He'll probably say he played the draw the whole way.
Yeah.
It takes me to a good segue to kind of wrap up this conversation, and it's about, I'm wondering where the cameras were for the documentary Here Come the Irish, because I've been watching on Peacock episodes 1 through 6 now, and I think we talked about it. There were 2 that preceded the season that were great behind-the-scenes look, but 3 through 6 have already come through the entire regular season. They're phenomenal. What Fighting Irish Media and NBC have done with that piece is incredible. And now knowing what I've seen from the regular season and seeing the games we've seen in real time, I can't wait. Episode 7's coming out in a couple days.
We're going to release episode 7 this Thursday, I believe, and you can't stop there. I mean, with the type of season we're having, there's going to be an 8th episode.
Wow.
And as I said to the people that are so invested in it in terms of the work they do day in and day out on our team, like, what a year to start this documentary. You think about everything this team's gone through, the way the season has gone, to follow the team, to follow Coach Freeman, to get to know the student athletes on the team in a way that, unless you're around it day in and day out like we are, you never really have the appreciation of what it means to be here on campus as a Notre Dame student athlete. Obviously, the athletic side, the student side, this whole experience of being a member of the Notre Dame community, I think it's really brought that to life.
Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Anybody listening should check it out. There'll basically be episode 7, like you said, coming out Thursday the 16th, and then one that'll kind of come out at the end of the season to recap it. But it's a great look, like you said, at a lot of these athletes and coaches, what their lives are like with football, but away from it as well, and then great game recaps. It did, like you said, I've gone back to watch the A&M game a couple times. It's just, you have to get a refresher 5.5 months ago, but that was a phenomenal win, and it's just a nice time capsule to just relive it. And if you're getting ready for the final this Monday, I can't think of a better way to kind of get excited for it than to watch that series.
I agree. Get caught up with the season, and hopefully everybody can enjoy next Monday night. It should be wonderful.
Pete, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoy Monday night. I'm going to have my eyes now trained on the field if it's close late to see where you are and see how you're handling the pressure.
Sounds good.
Thanks again to Pete Bevacqua for stopping by. It was great to talk to him and just get a sense of where his head is at as we get set for the national championship game. And as I alluded to, when I am down in Atlanta, I'm going to keep a close eye to see where he is if this final game comes down to a late kick or a late 4th and goal. Before we finished up this week's edition of Wake Up the Echoes, I did just want to talk a little bit about what we are approaching here in Atlanta. I want every fan that's listening to just think back to where you were in the beginning of September. After Notre Dame had beat Texas A&M, they were at home. We were all excited. They were playing Northern Illinois, and they lost the football game. And I know from my standpoint, I was pretty pessimistic. I was thinking to myself, what the heck is going on here? How can you lose that football game? And I remember sitting down on the couch with Coach Freeman soon thereafter when they were talking about how they were going to kind of get this thing going back in the right direction. I remember listening to his press conferences, and I remember just being taken aback by how accountable he and his entire staff were for not meeting the standard that they've set within this program. And I think there's something to really take in about Marcus Freeman and this team right now and the run that they're on. And who knows what's going to happen on Monday night in Atlanta against Ohio State. It's a great football team they're going to play, and they might win and they might lose. But they've won now 13 consecutive games since that Northern Illinois game. And there's not a lot of teams or coaches, I think, that could have bounced back from that loss the way that this team has this year. Think about some of the facts, too. They lost Benjamin Morrison at the midway point of the season. I think Benjamin Morrison's the best cornerback, certainly one of the best cornerbacks in the country. He's out. Somehow they bring in a freshman cornerback, and they've managed to just not really miss much of a beat in the secondary. So Benjamin Morrison's out. Midway point of the season, you think, oh, they're going to lose a game at some point, and they haven't. Think about the other guys they've lost on defense. Bevacqua Traore, Jordan Botelho, guys that were really coming into their own, rushing the passer. This defense should be down and out, and they're playing some of the best ball we've seen across the country. Christian Gray has made interceptions that are going to last a lifetime in the Notre Dame archives against USC and, of course, in the Orange Bowl against Penn State. There's a resiliency with this team right now that in my time watching sports, I haven't had the chance to watch a lot of teams that are resilient like this. And maybe it's because I went to Pepperdine and we don't have a football team out there. So now I'm maybe a little bit newer to being locked into college football on a week in and week out basis. But my pro teams stink. I'm a Seattle sports fan. The Mariners have always been terrible. The Seahawks had a couple Super Bowl runs. They won a Super Bowl about 10 years ago, and they were an awesome team. But my point is that it doesn't come around very often that you get to follow a team like the team that we're all getting to follow right now at Notre Dame. And I just hope that all the fans that are watching this show, that follow all of Notre Dame's content, make sure to really soak in the next week between now and the championship game on Monday, because Tuesday it's going to be over. The season is going to be over on Tuesday, and we're either going to be celebrating a national championship or we're going to be wallowing in a loss. But I don't think that'll take away from how much of a success this season has been. I think one of the coolest things that I've gotten to see in this unique position that I have, getting to interview Marcus Freeman every week for the last 3 years, is the growth of him in this program. And it's pretty safe to say, and we saw it in the first 2 years, that had that NIU loss happened in year 1 or year 2, they wouldn't have flourished the way they have here in year 3. And it speaks to the development, the resolve, and really the hard work and sacrifice of everyone inside that football building. So I just think that we have to soak in the next week. You have to do everything in your power to properly appreciate how fun this has been. Notre Dame has won more major bowl games in the last 8 days than the previous 31 years. We cannot lose sight of the accomplishments that have been rattled off here over the course of the last month and of this entire season. And when we go into the game on Monday night in Atlanta, keep that all in the back of your head, hope for the best, and just make sure we don't take this for granted. They haven't played in a title game in 12 years. You don't get to play in the national title game all that often. They haven't won a championship, as everyone listening knows, since 1988. Okay, that's really my entire lifetime. I was born in 1988. So the opportunity that's sitting in front of everyone right now is unique, and do not take it for granted. I certainly will not take for granted the opportunity to go down and broadcast the national championship game. It certainly will be treated in my eyes like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Hopefully, it's not a once-in-a-lifetime, and Notre Dame's back in the title game a bunch over the course of all of our lifetimes. But we have to treat it like the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that it is. So I know that everyone watching echoes the sentiment of immense pride and gratitude in watching this football team. If you have a chance, get in the comments on the YouTube section. I'd love to hear, we'd all love to hear what a win in the championship would mean, but even what the season has meant up until this point. I think, quite frankly, one of the most disappointing things that I see when I talk to Notre Dame fans is the way sometimes the 2012 season is talked about, because it didn't end the way everyone wanted it to. There's some amazing moments that took place in 2012. And I think if you think back hard enough as a Notre Dame fan, I was not affiliated yet, you can still feel the momentous nature of a lot of those moments. So let's make sure we still feel the same way about this game and also recognize how great the opportunity is on Monday night. But I can't wait until Monday night. I hope you're as excited as I am. I know you're as excited as I am if you're watching this show. And we'll see what happens. We'll check back in the next time we talk to you on Wake Up the Echoes. But it'll be a great game on Monday night, and I can't wait to be there. With all that said, we'll talk to you next week. Make sure to download, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to smash that like button on YouTube and spread the word about Wake Up the Echoes, which is, as always, presented by TireRack.com. Until next time, Tony Simeone. We'll talk to you later.